Hi everyone, happy Saturday. I am going to attempt to color this while I chat live. Does that mean I will get done with the picture while we're chatting? Probably not, but hopefully I can finish it off camera and come back. Who knows? We'll see. If not, then maybe I can post it like tomorrow night on Instagram or post the finished picture in the community page. So I just didn't have it in me to. Normally I record coloring in the picture, then I speed it up in the editing software I have, and then do a voiceover. And it wasn't really in me to spend, because that normally, takes 2 or 3 hours given my chat lengths, and I just didn't really have that in me today, and I do want to get this up. So we are going to do real-time coloring and chatting, which probably means there won't be a whole lot of coloring. But that's okay. I really wanted to do this outside, but the ballpark over at the high school is doing some type of fall ball tournament thing where they're making a bunch of announcements and playing really loud music like they always do. I have no problem with the announcement part. It's the constant music. But, I'm certainly not going to make a complaint in a town obsessed with high school sports, in a small town obsessed with high school sports. So just grin and bear it. And that park was installed long after I moved in, so I did not sign up for that willingly. And then they're doing some sort of work with trees with my neighbor across the street, and it's just like, I don't know why today, but like all noises are just really extra today. And Leroy agrees, because he wants to be outside today too, weirdly, and he can't. He keeps coming in and looking irritated, and I don't know what to tell him. Anyway, we're going to be coloring in the Golden Girls color by number. I mentioned this yesterday in my flip through. I've been wanting to color in this ever since I got it. I thought it might be fun, like each month, to do a page and then at least spend part of the time talking about like Golden Girls trivia, maybe talking specifically about each of the actresses, like shows they were in before Golden Girls, and what they did after and things like that. My original plan was to split this up and have the trivia in the first half and my chat in the second half. However, I know, there's probably plenty of you that don't have any interest in the Golden Girls trivia, and you just kind of, I could color whatever I want. You're just kind of here for the chat part because you're coloring, something yourself or doing chores or something like that. So I think I'm going to swap it up, do my personal color and chat in the first part, and then do some trivia in the second part. That way, if some of you have no interest in that, you can opt out of that. If you would like just the Golden Girls trivia part and you don't really need an update on my life, fair enough. I completely understand. There will be jump links, timestamps in the description where you can easily, like I split this into chapters all the time, so you can easily go to that part. So whatever floats your boat. If you don't like either one and you're not big on color and chats, I guess I'll catch you in another video. So, all right, I wanted to pick a page that I thought was a fun page, and so we're doing this one. Give me just a second. All right, so I decided to go with this one. One of the things I really wish this book had done was put the like episode numbers at least, or like the names of the episodes in here, so like you knew what each picture went to. Some of them, like I think that first one with all four, I'm not sure if it's from an actual episode, but like any of the ones that are episode related, I really wish she had done that. Some of them are obvious, like this one. So if you're familiar with Golden Girls, and we're gonna give a overview in a minute, this is from Season 4, Episode 17, You Gotta Have Hope. And so basically they're doing they're planning a charity benefit, and they need a master of ceremonies. And Rose, because she was adopted, is convinced that Bob Hope is her father. And so she wrote to him in that he is going to perform at this charity benefit. And somehow she convinces Dorothy to go with her to, because he's going to be performing in Miami at the time. She convinces Dorothy to go with her undercover in the men's, like, is like a golf club or a, oh, what are they called? Why can't I think today? It was like he was golfing and they went to the men's locker room dressed as men in golf clothes to see if they could actually talk to him. And of course he had already left. And anyway, you know, hard to spoil a show that's like over 20 years old. But it turns out at the end, Bob Hope does actually show up, which is pretty cool. But this is what scene that's from, if you were curious. And so anyway, for anybody that might, and so I'm just going to start coloring. Let me see here. So 23, so these are darker. Oh, okay, that's going to work out real well. So one thing I didn't anticipate in this book when I first looked at it was there are actually some some detail work here. And so I started to pull out my towel tree markers for some of this. But I find a lot of them are going dry, which, to be fair, I've had some of them for probably 5 years at this point. So I might have to buy another set soon. I haven't bought another set in like 2 or 3 years. So, but when I was looking at the color palette for this, it is an unusual color palette in that, you know, they're trying to get that 80s, 90s feel. And so these aren't, you know, usually like your typical colors. There's some in here, but like this yellow looks kind of more like a golden yellow and so on. So I ended up having to dip into my Copics because they are the markers I have that have the most variety of color that I could match up to this. So do know if you buy this, unless you're perfectly okay with using, sorry, now I'm playing with the light. Actually, I think that'll work just fine. I don't even think we need the light. Problem is, I need the light. Y'all don't need the light, but I need the light. This will work. We'll do this. So if you don't, if you're really like specific about getting colors right, you may need a really big marker set to be able to get this color palette. So just FYI. So the darker colors actually in the leaves back here, but I'm just going to go over it flat out with this. That way I don't have to, like the leaves will wind up being darker anyway. So for those of you who don't know, maybe you've been under a rock. Maybe you've been, oh, what was that show called? The Kimmy Schmidt. Maybe you've been in a bunker for, you know, 30, 40 years, which if you're coming out now, I am so sorry. Like, you need to go back in. This show ran from the late 80s to the early 90s. It had 7 seasons. I think they said 180 episodes. Is that right? 1985 to 1992. Yeah, I think it was like 180 episodes or something like that. And it was a very successful show of its time, and even now, which, you know, it was surprising it even got off the ground, because now you think about it, like, you know, 4 older ladies living as roommates in a house, elderly women, and getting into hijinks and stuff. Like, you just, that doesn't even sound like a pitch that, you know, today would even make it, would actually even make it to the, and back then it was a very big gamble. And but I think the cast and the writing just made it so successful, not only during that time but even now. It's my favorite show. Like, probably my favorite show of all time. With that and The Simpsons. Like, it's hard to. I would say this edges out The Simpsons just because of some of the nostalgia factors. But, like, so basically, it's for older women. Um, it is Estelle Getty plays Sophia, who is, well, hang on. So Estelle Getty plays Sophia. B. Arthur plays Dorothy. Sophia is Dorothy's mother in the series. Betty White plays Rose Nyland. Well, it was Dorothy Spornak. And then Sophia Petrillo. Betty White was Rose Nyland. And Rue McClanahan played Blanche Devereaux. And it's Blanche's house. She advertised for some roommates. They live in Miami. And Dorothy and Rose answer the advertisement. And then Dorothy's mother, Sophia, is in a nursing home, but then the nursing home burns down in the first few episodes. And so Sophia ends up coming to live with them as well. And basically, hijinks ensue. The writing, it's a comedy. It is extremely well written. Something that I feel like makes it so unique is it's older people, but like older people, but it dealt with a lot of controversial topics back in the day. Like, it didn't really hit on, like, they didn't really just stick with like old people, old people comedy as you would think now. You'd be like, oh, they talk about, Medicare or Medicaid all the time. They, make jokes about that kind of stuff. And like, yeah, there was, the getting older episodes because they are all portraying themselves. Estelle Getty, Sophia's character was supposed to be in her 80s. And then I think like the rest of them are supposed to be in their 50s or 60s. And so like there are, obviously a lot of writing centered around them getting older and dealing with things like that. And, but there was oddly like a lot of controversial topics that they were willing to deal with that other shows at the time weren't willing to cover. So like a lot of things like gay marriage, LGBTQ, the AIDS epidemic was, obviously a big thing at the time, and they covered that. There's a big episode, it's one of my favorites, where they talk about women struggling to be able to get adequate health care back then. And it's one I'm going to talk about because it's one of my favorites. And but they just, they cover a lot of controversial topics, and it's smart writing and humor, but it's also like homelessness. I don't know, they just do it really well. And so what I feel like a lot of episodes, even though some of the jokes are a little dated when they use like specific names and stuff in their jokes, like some of the references I don't even get. Of people in their jokes, the topics like in some ways are really kind of relevant now, and I find that extremely interesting because in some ways this show feels a bit timeless. Immigration, I know, was another one, like but anyway, so it's a super funny show. I adore all the actresses in it. I love the writing. I love the fact that they did handle a lot of controversial issues. The big thing that I think one of the reasons it's just a really nostalgic show for me. So I was born in 81. I am 42. Is that right? Yep. So this show really started like before I was old enough to fully appreciate it. However, a lot of times at night. So my parents weren't like, well, I mean, most of the time they're like, yeah, you need to go to bed at a normal bedtime because, I was a kid, I don't know, even into the 90s, right? I was like 10, 12 and under at the time. And they, tried to get me to go to bed early, but a lot of times at night, like, I would stay up and watch a movie or something with them. And then my poor dad, who worked like swing shifts at a printing company, would like fall asleep on the couch. And my dad liked Golden Girls well enough, but he wasn't a huge fan. But back then, they were even running stuff in syndication already. So my mom, when he would fall asleep, like would let me stay up, and she'd flip over to where they were showing Golden Girls on like Lifetime or whatever at the time. It was always Golden Girls and then Designing Women. And so we'd watch an episode or two of Golden Girls, and my mom never liked Designing Women much. And I like it okay, but I guess I just picked that up from her, was like, I prefer Golden Girls too. But we'd flip over and watch Golden Girls all the time. And she let me stay up and watch it with her. And then she'd be like, you better go to bed. And so I have just such great memories of watching that with my mom. Um, and honestly, I feel like a lot of my humor and I guess my sarcasm, my I'd like to think I'm funny, not as witty as I'd like to be, but I think a lot of that really became ingrained in me watching that show. Like it made me laugh, and so humor just became a really, something that I associate definitely with being happy and being able to relax and unwind. And so, that's one of the many reasons, like to this day, stuff, when I'm really struggling, I go to the stuff that I know will make me laugh, and to get that little bit of serotonin boost. So it's really nostalgic for me. I also, when I was at college, especially my first year, and I had moved on campus, I was only like an hour away from home, but still being away from my family was hard. And so, fortunately, my every girl on that floor loved Golden Girls. I can't tell you how happy it would make me. I'd walk down the hall and somebody would have their door open just for some air circulation. Back then, it was an all girls hall, and they were really strict about who could come through, so it wasn't, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that now, but back then, that was something that we felt pretty comfortable doing, at least in the all girls dorm. And somebody would have the door open to circulate air, and they'd be sure enough have a Golden Girls episode running in the background. Like that was the thing on everybody's. Which one is which here? Okay. That was the thing on everybody's TV, and it just always made me happy because, like, it wasn't just me, it was all of us. And, so this is super smooth paper, by the way, and the Copics feel a little streaky just because I've noticed, like, on smoother paper, because they don't put out a ton of ink, the flow's a little less than in budget markers. Like they can be a little streaky, so I'm trying to go a little slower and take my time with them. And that's another reason I don't mind using them on this paper. It's not super rough or toothy like Amazon paper, so it's not as much, like, again, I've never had an issue with nibs going bad, but obviously if I continue to use them on rough paper, that probably will become an issue. But smoother paper, I don't mind using them. But so like that was a big thing for college. It gave me a lot of comfort when I was away from my family. And just over the years, it's just if I'm feeling really bad, if I'm feeling sick, I watch all the shows probably at least once a year. I will go through and watch them all. They are available on Hulu. I think if you have cable, like they're on the Hallmark channel. At this point, I really should just buy them. Though at this point, I think I'm going to buy them on disc because like a lot of companies where I've bought digital like movies and stuff, a lot of these places are just removing, these movies and shows and stuff that we had access to. And so I'm kind of like, well, if I bought this as a digital movie so I could go back and watch it anytime I want, and you guys just take it completely out of your library, then that means it's gone and I don't have access to it anymore. And so I don't like that. So I'm probably going to go back to buying DVDs, to be honest. It's like they call it the streaming wars. Like these people are literally out in the field battling over it, and it's just money hungry streaming companies that do this somehow getting tax write-offs for it, and I don't even understand why. And I'm glad, like, honestly, I was very in favor of the writer's strike, and I'm glad they were able to reach an agreement, and I hope that SAG-AFTRA, I think is the name of it, also is successful. Anyway, got off a little on subject there, but I love the show. I love all the actresses. And so, yeah, that's why I bought this book. I wish I knew every episode. I'm not so far along that I know every, like, episode name by heart. And boy, I wish I could go through this book and easily tell you what this is from episode season 4, episode 5 or something, like, very easily. But maybe I guess I'm not that much of a fan. Though one of my dreams is to actually own a piece from the set one day. That would be like the coolest thing ever. Maybe, who knows? There's no telling how much that stuff is all worth now. But anyway, so yeah, it is just a great show. I highly recommend it. Like I said, the only thing is some of the jokes where they make a joke about a specific person, like a famous actor or actress of the day or political figure. Like, obviously we're going to know most of the political figures, but like some of the things you may not even know. Is that also 31 and 34? It is also 31 and 34. Okay, cool. But we're going to go ahead and start on Dorothy and Rose, and then depending on how time's going, I might have to do the background off camera. I have to pick out the colors for it too. But I really I just love the show. Like I said, I think a lot of my sarcasm, my inability to keep a neutral face even when I can keep my mouth shut, has been from this show. Um, I think, a lot of people are like, which character would I be? I would be Dorothy. Probably. She's such an introvert. I wish I was that tall. But she's the type that she'd rather be in with a good book and a glass of wine or something, and that is just me. She considers herself like a pretty smart person. She was a smart kid. That's, well, I don't ever brag on myself. I feel more insecure than anything, but the one thing, I've always been is one of the smart kids. So, reads a lot. What was I going to say? Where she was a substitute teacher and she loved teaching. I also love teaching. There are obviously very many reasons I'm not in the teaching field right now, and that would be a coloring chat in all of itself. I did go get my master's and my teaching certification, and I just never used it. And it would take I'm not going to say never, but it would take a pretty desperate situation for me to go back to teaching right now, just with the way education in Tennessee is right now. So, 33 is the medium gray, which is gonna be C3. Is that her hair or is that the cap? I think that's the cap. Let's go back and finish that. Um, and plus, like, her facial expressions are just mwah, like chef's kiss. Like, that is me. I can keep my mouth shut, but my face always shows the truth. I've never learned how to keep a neutral face. And I pretty much react the way she does to a lot of stupidity. And when I see stupidity, when I see foolishness, and I hear people talking foolishness, I can keep my mouth shut, but I cannot get rid of those facial expressions. And so I feel like I'm Dorothy, probably in real life. In terms of like my favorite character, that's changed a lot over the years. Like each part of my life, I kind of get drawn to different ones. So like obviously Dorothy was probably my favorite for a number of years. Um, just because I relate so much to her character. Um, I I don't so I love Rose's character, but I probably have associated the least with her. Just because the biggest thing is her love for animals in the show, which actually is a lot like was a lot. Mm, still hurts. Was a lot like Betty White in real life. She's very, very huge animal lover and advocate for animals. And so, like, that's the big thing that I'm like, yes, that's me and Rose, like, in a nutshell. Probably was a little more like Rose, like, in my early years at college and going into life, like, a little more naive, just because. Um, my parents doted on me a lot. I didn't have to fend for myself very much or have to grow up for a long time. I joke that I went from my parents' house to my first husband's house, and because he was the type that liked to have somebody he could take care of. And come to find out now, years after the divorce, that wasn't really. I'm gonna go ahead and color her in too. That wasn't really what I wanted in life. I just thought that's what I was supposed to do. But again, another topic for another color and chat. So like that was probably the time I most got Rose. I find that just in recent years, I've really been drawn to Blanche in the series. Like, not that I'm doing Blanche things, like, I'm not an extrovert, like, but her comedy, I feel like, is very understated in the series. Like, Betty White and B. Arthur, I mean, Rue McClanahan's still well known for her previous shows and stuff like that. So like, I don't feel like, she's underrated or whatever, but like I feel like, a lot of people look at her and like, oh, she's the man magnet. Like she's the one that sleeps with all the guys, and like that's all they really, say about her, and that's, all they really think about her. And like I feel like her comedy in the show is so underrated. Like she has some of the best, funniest lines in the show. And so I've been really drawn to her character the last few years. And Sophia, I have a feeling as I get older, she'll probably be the one I associate more with. So it changes. Like I said, identify the most with Dorothy, but like overall, depending on the time in my life, like each woman has really become kind of the one I identify with at points in my life. And maybe that's why it's so popular in some ways, is that all the ladies have such defining characters and personalities, and like all of us really can find somebody to identify with, or it reminds us of somebody we know. So I know I'm I was going to work my way down on Dorothy's outfit, and then I got distracted with roses. I keep wanting to say Betty White. So 10. I had the 10 picked out. There we go. All right. I said we were going to do life updates, but I guess I had to get an adequate intro. And I won't do this for every Golden Girls coloring chat, but I did kind of want to talk about it on the first one and why the show means so much to me. And it really does. I just absolutely adore this show. And it really is my favorite. Like I said, I thought for a while I was like The Simpsons was my favorite, but no. This will forever be like, just because it makes me think of my mom a lot. It's interesting, like, as I was growing up, a lot of, I was a bit of a tomboy and stuff like that till I became a teenager. And, like, a lot of people thought kind of I took after my dad. But my mom's influence in my life, I don't think was as obvious until I got older. And then like her stuff was more subliminal, right? Like as I've gotten older, and like she really was, her and my dad both were instrumental in helping me kind of develop, like I said, humor was a big thing in our house, and a way to relax, a like way to show love, affection. Nothing like getting a good joke and making your parents laugh. Like in my house, that was my I have arrived moment. This is probably gonna be a little streaky. This was my I have arrived moment when I could make my dad laugh, or especially my mom. But if I could make my dad laugh, it was like me and my brother both. We were like, yes, we did it. Look at us. We are so clever. Um, but anyway, so in saying all that, I will have plenty. I have pages and pages of Golden Girls trivia. I also want to talk about each of the ladies and like their careers. That's interesting. Talk about their careers. I have a book list I'm working on, and I've read a lot of Betty White's stuff, but I'd love to read some of the others like Bees and Rue McClanahan's stuff. I don't know if Estelle Getty ever had an opportunity to do a biography. I'll have to look into that. Unfortunately, all the ladies, none of them are still with us. I think Estelle Getty was the first one to pass away in her 80s from, I think it's called Lewy body dementia. B. Arthur was in the early 2000s due to cancer. Rue McClanahan was in 2010 due to a stroke. And Betty White, the Betty White, who has definitely been one of the most iconic people like I have loved in my life, passed away in 2021 on December 31st, and she was like 18 days away from being 100. And when I tell y'all how I cried and grieved, it was, for a celebrity, I know, but it was just, and like I said, I'll get a little more into talking about her life and why I felt like so influenced from her as an actress. Let me see something real quick. So I suspect, yeah, no. Okay. So one thing I noticed when they did the Disney Villains color by number, the same group, Thunder Bay Press or whatever, like some of the pages didn't really have the numbers done very well, and like I'm seeing that a little bit here. So I was just trying to see what the finished picture looks like and whether I should be using the darker blue for shading or just using the regular blue, and I think the regular blue is fine. Again, it's not going to 100% match up to the finished picture, but it will be close enough. Making sure we're actually still, yeah. So yeah, that was kind of my intro. And on, why I love this show so much. I would like to do maybe a page a month, maybe more, depending on how I feel. I mean, I'll be coloring more off camera, but like, like an official coloring chat, just, I don't know. In the past, when I've done movies or TV shows and done pages associated with that, like I've had so much fun talking about the shows. Um, like I did a Beetlejuice one a while back, and I did one with Hocus Pocus and the Sanderson sisters, which is, of course, a show I love very much too, or a movie I love very much. Drawn to older, strong women actresses, because, of course, Bette Midler, all three of those ladies are amazing. Of course, I'm blanking out Katie Najimy and Sarah Jessica Parker, and I probably mispronounced what's her face, but I did my best. All right. That is weird that just one part of the coat is shaded. Let me look. Let's look back. Let's see here, it's all one color. Oh, and that was supposed to be white. Darn it. Yeah, we're just going to go by the finished picture. I feel weird that that is the only shaded part of her coat. So we're just going to stick with the 10. I need to write these down. Since these are a little trickier, it's going to be hard to remember what I use, so I'm going to have to make sure I write this stuff down. Actually, let's just go ahead and do Betty White's side as well. She has 19 and 20, which are yellow and light yellow. Okay. Now, they'll show a lot of times it'll be the darker color before the lighter color in this palette, so you gotta be a little tricky. Or you gotta be a little careful. 19 is the darker yellow, so. Alright, so life updates. I know I did a big long coloring chat last weekend, and y'all are kind of like, what in the world? Normally, I wouldn't have a life update thing in a week, but there was something going on last week that was in progress, and I couldn't talk about until I officially went, notified my team members and stuff, because I don't, I tried to not talk a ton about work on here. And obviously I'm not going to tell y'all something before I tell anybody on my team. I've been around on the internet for a minute. I know how it goes. But I think only one. I've mentioned my channel, but I think only the coworker I talk to the most watches this. And I mean, she wouldn't care, but always recommend do not share a lot of your work business on the internet, and definitely don't talk about something before you're going to do it. Just don't do that. That's crazy. 'Cause you never know. So I had said last weekend that I have really been struggling with honestly feeling like doing anything. I have been getting online and working, logging off, and just laying there and existing. Scrolling TikTok just to look for that humor, that laugh, the little bit of serotonin that I can find for the day. There's no number on those things in her pocket, so I'll have to come back and figure out what to do with those. But I've just been really struggling. It started at the end of May. I had a big project at work that, they have the little, let me see if I can grab my tile trees for those. So like I said, there's fine little lines, and I generally like to use my tile trees for the details, like I would with George Tufex's. So that is I think 16 and 18. I think that's right. So these have a smaller fine tip, so I find they work better in smaller areas. They are slimline markers though, and a friend of mine, I recommended these two. One thing to keep in mind, I never think about it much, but I should. Depending, like if you have hand pain or arthritis or something like that, a lot of times the shape of markers can actually cause issues. Like these slimline markers, they feel more, they're a little bit thicker than a colored pencil, but like because of their shape and size, they might be a little more difficult if you have like arthritis or anything. I mean, you might prefer the bigger markers. So definitely, like I said, everybody's a little different. So you know what? I'm going to make these things in her pocket. Orange and red to kind of match her hat. I think that would be appropriate. Damn, what was the other? Oh, okay. I think it was this one. But y'all, I had a bit, so, well, it's been this past year. Like, I probably needed a break. What I was hoping for was a break. When my contract ended and I was looking for another job, I was kind of hoping there was a break till I found another role. But then this role that I'm in right now came up. My dad had referred it to me. It was a perfect fit for me and my experience, and it was with a well-known company, a great resume addition, plus it was allowing me to learn more skills in my field to become, stronger in that area, which is email marketing. I think somebody had asked in a previous comment, and I forgot to follow up. What I do, I'm not trying to hide it or anything. Oh, there's the line. Okay. I do email marketing. Sorry, I was trying to make sure of where I stopped this. So I've worked with various companies over the years, different divisions where they will do like consumer email or business email, like B to I is individual, B to B is like businesses. Depending on the group, they're sending emails about like a new product they have or a service they can provide this business, like they're developing a relationship with that company, so they send them emails about, services that they're offering and things like that. And I help manage the list of people who get targeted. We try to build engagement, build, revenue, depending on if it's, depending on the company, and build like emails that consumers actually want rather than what the company thinks they want. So I'm trying to help y'all out, right? Like I'm not trying to help you get more junk email or anything. If I'm doing consumer email, I'm trying to help you get things that I think you actually would like. And so that's what I was doing in my previous contract job. They did some restructuring. I ended up staying on in a reporting role for like analytics role for a few years just because I liked the team that I was working with, and I kind of wanted a break because I had been doing email marketing for like 10 years at that point. And I mentioned briefly that I went and got my teacher certification. I couldn't find a teaching role anywhere close to me. Another email marketing role opened up. I went back to that, and I was making a lot more money, and then my dream teaching job came up, and it was going to be like a $15,000 pay cut. I was living by myself at the time. I was just dating my now husband. I couldn't take that risk living by myself to take that kind of pay cut. And so, because a lot of things changed in the 2 or 3 years that I knew what salary I was going to get as a teacher, but like a lot of things changed when I went in school for that certification versus, I got divorced, I was living on my own, um, a lot of things. So I had to, turn that down, and I hate it, but it really was the best move for me. Anyway, so this dream job, well, on paper, looked like a dream job with this company. So I got hired last September, and I love the team. I love my managers. I really like the work we do. It's specifically like for like adult training and certification type stuff, which is, as a teacher at heart, that's kind of something I, really enjoy being a part of. And but there's been a lot of stress that's happened. I knew it was going to be a intense role when I was hired. I knew that. However, it got a lot more intense than I think even they had planned, which I know is how things go, but like this, it was for the whole team. They had expected to be able to hire additional people. They instituted a hiring freeze after myself and my coworker were hired, and they haven't yet lifted that, and it's been over a year later. So, um, so it has been a challenging year for my team and myself. I learned a lot, but I had to do a lot of new email campaign launches in a very short period of time, um, for a setup that I like, an automation type situation, which I had not. That was the new skill set I was going to learn. And that's kind of the way a lot of companies are going, is creating like an interactive journey for a customer. So like if they show interest in this one topic, have an email ready to give them more opportunity to explore that topic. Like if they're engaged, keep sending them the emails they're interested in. If they're not, then they fall out of the list. Um, or if they show interest in something else, send them somewhere else. Like again, it's supposed to be a better situation for people receiving emails they signed up for. That's the key here. I only do emails that people sign up for. I don't do spam emails. We don't buy lists or anything like that. So, nothing like that. People willingly signed up for this stuff. But it's just been a very tough year with the hiring freeze. The company itself has had some layoffs, has had some changes in office policy that have caused a lot of stress. I can't go into detail because the more detail I give, the more likely. I don't want to tie this back to the company. But anyway, it's been very stressful for the people who work at this company. So like my manager's great, my team's great. My skip level, my higher level manager, and like most of the managers in my org are great, and I like them a lot. But at higher levels, they have made a lot of decisions that have just been kind of tone deaf, have been very stressful to the workers, and has just caused a lot of stress, a lot of sadness, a lot of just, anyway, been very, very unpopular decisions. And it's stressed me out too, because some of the things have potentially involved me and how I do things at work. So like that, the environmental issues combined with like doing a lot more work than I anticipated, the whole team doing a lot more work than we anticipated, already was causing a lot of stress. And then just this year happened, right? Like, and I lumped September from last year into this year too. Like, a lot has happened. Both Scamper and Sidonia passed away, which were just, and I didn't have a ton of time to grieve them because at the time was right in the middle of my big campaign push. I had to do a lot of traveling in May for work, and then in June, my brother and I went on that trip, which, while that's always fun and I love it, I don't travel much, and because of being, constantly fatigued, it takes a lot out of me. And those were almost back-to-back trips, right as everything was launching and going live in my big project. So it was, May and June were very tough months for me. Actually, March and April were too, because that's when Scamper and Sidonia passed, almost a month apart, right at a month apart to be exact. Big Air's had some ongoing health issues where he's been doing well, but there's been a few things like he's starting to just drop a little bit of weight and he seems a little wobblier. So we don't know, like, in terms of longevity with his Cushing's, like how long he's got. We're just ensuring he has the best quality of life while he's here. But that's been tough. Leroy's had a lot of, I guess, mental issues where he was making himself nauseous and sick and throwing up because of stress that was apparently happening outside that we could never figure out. Half the summer seemed to be thunderstorms, and that didn't help either because he worries himself sick over thunderstorms, hides under the bed. He's pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. So have been trying to figure out ways to help him relax this summer. Like, it's just been a very tough year. And all of it together, like, I knew in May or June that I was almost desperate for a break. Like, I was just so exhausted and burnout, and it was just, all I would do is work and then exist, take a nap to get myself through the day, exist, and then go to bed at night. And that's pretty much all. I would try to color, but I just couldn't find the time or the desire, to be honest, because I was just so exhausted all the time from work stuff. And the final break, so in July it seemed like things were getting a little bit easier, and, like, I guess my body said, oh, you think you have time to relax? All right, well, all this illness I was waiting on, now's the time to bust it out. So July was the month that I was all like, I'm going to build good habits and get on the treadmill and meditate and, try to get better work-life balance and this and that. And my body took that as a signal that, oh, you think you can relax? Now it's time to get sick. And so, as y'all know, at the beginning of August, I got sick. Sick. Like, was out of work 2.5 weeks. Got cellulitis, which I had never had before. What is 29? Oh, the medium brown, which I'd never had before. Had a supposed virus, and the biggest thing was the underarm pain. And while the cellulitis slowly got better, I'm using a very light touch here, by the way, because these are very small spaces. This would be a good place to use the towel trees, but I'm just kind of lazy right now. If these had a fine tip, I would be using the fine tip, but the Copics, the ones I have, the sketch, typically come with a brush tip and a chisel tip. Did you get tired of me talking, Winter? So y'all know I got better. I had 2 or 3 days there where I actually felt well enough to even color, because the cellulitis was in my right arm and it was causing a lot of pain, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play computer games. I couldn't do anything that I enjoy. And y'all, like, that was my breaking point. Just getting sick, as I said last weekend, was my breaking point. And it's like my body held off on getting sick. And that's what it does. Like, that's with whatever mystery illness I have. And I know it's not just stupid fibro like everybody thinks everything is. Um, I know I have fibromyalgia. I believe that, but I believe I have something else, like an autoimmune disorder, and nobody's been able to figure it out. Nobody seems to want to figure it out. They just want to say, hey, it's fibro. Fibro is not an autoimmune disease. I know that, so it's very frustrating. We won't even talk about my frustration with the doctors and everything the past few months. But anyway, all that seemed to get a little better, but when I eased my way back into work, I noticed before I would have to go use my lunch for naps 2, 3 times a week, mostly towards the end of the week as my energy bars were used up. After I got sick, it was every day. I had to use my lunch for a nap. And a lot of times an hour just wasn't enough. So I was having to come in early and stay late to compensate for like the 2 hour lunch I would take some days. And I'm so grateful that my team and my work allows for that flexibility. But it still made me feel bad. And just the fatigue hadn't got better. And as you guys know, that pain under my arm, kind of where the lymph node is at, has still been there. Just as bad some days as it was the very first day I had it. So all September I tried to just hang in there, and my therapist is like, ma'am, you are burnout. You're burnout, you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with a lot of anxiety. She's like, you have fought the good fight, but she's like, I really recommend that you take a break at this point because it's just not going to get any better. And she's like, if you have long-term goals of, being successful in this role at your job and getting this medical issue taken care of, and she's like, you just need a break. And really, I hadn't taken any type of substantial break in probably since I graduated college. And even then, I worked that summer doing like work in a factory. So even that wasn't really relaxing. But, that was in 2012, 2011. So, like, it had been a while. And with my previous job, I didn't have vacation time because it was a contract job and it was unpaid. I hope those are supposed to still be 9. Or are they supposed... Okay, so I still see 9s on something. Okay, so these all stripes. This is so confusing. Yeah, I think I got it though. So any time I took was unpaid. And fortunately, I could still take some time, but like not a lot. And most of the time when I took time off, I just spent the whole week, like it'd be a week at a time. I'd sleep the whole week, start to feel better, and hey, it's time to go back to work. So I never really had a full time to just kind of rest, relax, totally recuperate kind of thing, even with the chronic illness stuff going on. And with this job, I only get, is it 2 weeks of vacation for the first few years? And of course, I used almost all my time with my brother, and due to having to go for appointments and stuff when I ran out of PTO. So, I kept fighting it and kept fighting it, and I finally was just like, you know what? I had reached the point of not emotionally caring anymore. Like, I had so much anxiety and worry over my job. All these decisions being made were going to impact me. Like, how am I going to be able to keep this job? Is something going to happen where I'm going to lose this job for like a year straight? And I reached a point of just whatever, which sounds mentally healthy at the onset. But when I'm feeling that way about everything in life, like whatever, it's a sign that I'm in trouble, because just mentally, I have no more energy to even worry about stuff. And when I've ran out of energy to worry about stuff, then I am really done. Really, really done. And so I took, I finally just said I've had enough, and I threw up my arms. I cannot tell you how hard it was for me to admit that I needed a break. My husband has been so supportive about it, and he gets it, and he understands how I feel. I think there's a mower going in the background. Sorry if you can hear that. He has been so supportive and awesome, but like even now, I still feel like I have to justify it to him, even though he's given me no reason to believe that, and this is from past trauma and past issues. It's nothing to do with him. I still feel like I have to validate my illness and my, mental problems in front of him, even though he's been the most supportive person in my life. And I hate that, but I've still, okay, wait a minute. So we also have another 9 stripe. The rest of them are 20 and 22, which is, oh, okay. Yeah, I see now. 20 is the light yellow. But I was just tired of fighting it. And I finally just was like, I need a break. I can't do this anymore. And I can't do this right now. I just mentally, physically, I need a break. So I put in, I'm putting in, or I put in for a 6-week medical leave due to just the numerous health issues that are going on right now, mentally, physically, what have you. And it starts Monday, which means I'm technically in it now. Since yesterday was my last day, it goes for 6 weeks, and I go back November 13th. It is unfortunately unpaid. I had an opportunity to apply for things like short-term disability and things like that, but I did not, because I want this to count as a medical leave, I didn't want to potentially cause issues with getting it approved. Obviously, if they're going to have to pay you money, it's going to be harder to get it approved. And we had talked about it and budgeted as such, and where, we budgeted in these 6 weeks. So, we're fortunate in that I didn't have to do that. So yeah, I told my boss on Monday all week. I had been notifying the people I work with, the different campaigns and programs I work on. I created a whole bunch of documentation, walked my coworker through a lot of that. She's going to be kind of like the point of contact, and then we have 4 people total on my team, on my individual team right now. My manager kind of counts as a 5th person, but she's out on maternity leave. She might be back before I'm back, to be honest. Part-time the rest of the year. But my one coworker is going to be the main point of contact, but then as the other team members can help, she's going to be able to train them on the stuff. And like I said, I tried really hard to leave plenty of paperwork, so that plenty of documentation, so that they're not in too much uncharted territory. So I'm hopeful I was able to help out enough like that. That was the biggest problem, y'all. I hated to do that to my team, because they are all awesome, and we have been all so busy, and it's just been too much work for our team, in my opinion. And I I hated to leave them with even more work, but fortunately this is supposed to be a slower period, and this year it's not turning out that way. So it's been a little frustrating, but it's a little bit of a slower period, so that was one reason why I knew this would be a good time. And I tried to minimize the amount of work they would have to do while I was out. Some of my stuff right now is just reporting and then optimizing the emails that are automated. Um, but I tried to limit how much they had to do while I was out, and it's more just reporting and kind of monitoring results and things like that, and doing reporting and stuff. So I hated to do it. I do still feel a bit guilty about it, but my team, as should not surprise me, was just really supportive about it. They thought, it was a good idea. Obviously, they didn't want more work, but they understood why I had to do it. So my manager, who is actually my skip level manager, but he's been our manager while mine's been out on maternity leave. He's amazing. Has been really supportive about it, and they get it, right? Like they get it. And so yeah, it has not sunk in yet. It really hasn't. I don't think it will sink in till probably later next weekend, that basically I have 6 weeks off to do whatever I want. Of course, me being me was, I spoke to my therapist Thursday and I was like, should I set any goals? Should I do anything? And she's like, no, stop. She's like, she said the whole point of this 6 weeks is you're not supposed to have absolutely nothing that you're required to do. She's like, if you need to sleep the entire 6 weeks, she's like, that's what you're going to do. She's like, if you decide you want to clean the house from top to bottom one day because you feel good enough to do it, she's like, do that. And then if you don't feel like keeping it up the next day, don't. She's like, don't set any goals. Don't do anything that you have to keep up with, at least at the onset and until you feel like it. And I was like, okay, yes ma'am. Like, she's very direct. She's very just what I need in a therapist. And so that's what I'm gonna do. The only thing that I have planned is the color along for October, which is Cattober Coloring 2023. I posted it on Instagram and on the community page yesterday. Basically coloring any cat or cat-shaped objects or what have you for October. And I just love this tag for obvious reasons, and I didn't want to not do this tag. So we're going to do that, but like, really and truly, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know if I'll do a showcase on this one or not. It really depends on how I feel at the end of the month. And if I can get Instagram to cooperate, I might color one cat. I might color 20 cats. But I am not going to set any goals. I'm going to tell y'all now, my plans for coloring next month is to just color when I feel like it. I'm going to color a cat for the month. There we go. That's the only thing that I have planned is a cat. I have some color alongs I'd like to participate in, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I can't. I'm not even using my planner. It did not get updated very much for September, and there's just no point in even building out a layout for October. I'm not going to try to keep up with it. Because that's the goal, is just this needs to be a time to just recover and restore some of these reserves that I've been missing for years, energy reserves, and to figure out health-wise what the heck is going on. because I could do the little tasks at work, like the stuff that didn't involve much thinking. It was the big brain stuff, right? Like we're getting into our planning for next year time, and I was worried that I just I couldn't keep up, and that I wouldn't be able to be at my best during this planning period because I just can't do any big brain thinking right now. Um, so that was a big reason. I just want to come back kind of fresh. By then, we're hoping they'll have, because they do want to change some things around for next year, that will have those things cemented and in place so that, when I get back, we can go ahead and hit the ground running for planning for next year. But I want to be fresh enough that I can do that. And I didn't want to wind up in a performance review because I just wasn't keeping up. And that was where I knew it would go if I just didn't do this. It's scary. It definitely, I feel like, could put a target on my back, not at my team level, but at a higher level. That's one of the reasons I wanted to make it a medical leave. I know that said 22, but all the other lines are blue, so that didn't make any sense. But it just had to be done. This was just one of those things I got to take a gamble on. I got to take a chance on, because there was just no way. I was trying to mitigate it a little bit at a time as time went on, and it just even led to me getting sick. So yeah, so that's where we're at, and that was the big thing I wanted to tell you guys about. Maybe this encourages, and this is the thing, like, I don't feel, one of the biggest problems I've had with this job, it's a very newsworthy company. It is very much an imposter syndrome because the interview process is very difficult. They only claim they take the best of the best, and so it's definitely an ego boost when you get hired at this company and you're like, oh wow, this is really awesome. But it is they create a competitive environment, which I don't particularly agree with, but that is kind of how things are. It's very, they even have like so we use Slack, and they even have a channel called Imposter Syndrome, because a lot of people like me will wind up getting this and being like, how did I do this? Like, I don't belong here. What am I doing here? And a lot of people get that way at their jobs, but like, it is a real problem at this company. So much so they have a dedicated Slack channel to talk about it and talk through it. They also, is not unusual for people to have to take leaves like this. Not unusual at all. Some of the people I know that I feel like are the strongest people mentally and physically have had to take leaves, like just like this, because they need the time to recover, because it is a lot. It is a very intense job. So I don't feel like, oh, I just couldn't hack it or anything like that. It's not that at all. Like, I definitely know this is not unusual at all. Definitely is, I feel like, a red flag that I didn't know when I got hired. I feel like if a lot of your employees are having to do this, then maybe there's a little bit of an issue there. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I think it's disturbing, but, I mean, what? I don't know. That's, like I said, we're just gonna we're just gonna say that and move on. But yeah, it was necessary, and now I know y'all are like, oh man, you're gonna be doing so much coloring, you're gonna be doing so much of this and that, and y'all, I am not going to make that kind of promise. I would love to say, I mean, let me tell you, couple weeks out, if I could, like, actually, let me do the bottom part first, because this is a little easier. Sorry. Let me zoom out a little and show you guys, like, what we got so far. All right, we're going to do down here, because this looks a little easier to do. How is the brightness going? Feels like it's overly bright. All right, let's see here. 28 is red brown. I might have to pause this and grab some more colors. Let me do that real quick. All right, I think I got them. Cool. So 28 is going to be a red brown. All right. So I think I lost my train of thought. Oh, I am trying not to make any plans for the next 6 weeks. This was kind of what I was alluding to in some of my videos this week. That wasn't right. That was 29. Dang it. Or was that 28? No, that was 29. No. I'm so confused. Whatever. I'm hoping maybe after a few weeks I really feel like coloring, and I feel like doing a lot of coloring videos. Another thing I mentioned last weekend, if you didn't catch that one, is due to this leave and due to some financial goals that we're trying to set this year, like we want to pay my student loans off. We want to be able to buy maybe a new vehicle at the end of next year. Due to those, that's supposed to be 28. We're going to make that 28. There's no label on this one, but we're going to make it 28. Oop, shoot. Every so often, I will get a Copic marker that has been kind of overfilled. And so I noticed it as I was laying it down. So I might have to be a little careful with this color. And just dab it every so often just to make sure I don't drop excess color. What was I gonna say? It's only been the only downside with Copics. Oops, see, I need something more absorbent. Let's try this. But I've made the decision to kind of back off on the coloring book, and see, look at that. That is, no. Dang it. I wonder if the chisel tip would help avoid that. That's so annoying. And of course it had to be right in the little space that I'm working in, right? Like, it couldn't be in a big section. Okay, I think we'll just use the chisel for now. So, like, I'm really cutting back. I canceled all my pre-orders except for one. Like, y'all would be so proud of me. I had probably 5 or 6 books pre-ordered for the next 3 or 4 months. And I decided I'm just going to wait and see the flip-throughs. Because I have had a few pre-orders that have been a little disappointing lately. So I kind of want to wait and see on a few of them before I decide to buy them. And then I can like put them on a Christmas list or just slowly buy them. But I'm really going to curb that. So I'll have fewer flip through videos, fewer books to flip through. So y'all might see more demos and color and chats from me overall. But like,
I don't know how frequently that's going to be. I don't know yet. Like, y'all may just get one video a week from me for a while, one or two videos, and then I may decide I want to do more. I have a live stream I've been trying to do, feels like for 6 months now. Maybe I will feel well enough to do that one. But again, I just don't want to plan anything. The only reason you're getting as many videos as you're getting over the next few days is because a lot of these have been pre-recorded and I just need to make a few tweaks, render them, like get them ready to upload and then upload them. So that's probably the reason you're getting so many now, but yeah. That's the hope, that's the dream, that after 2, 3, 4 weeks of just existing, maybe I will finally get the rest I need and my brain and everything can finally start wanting to do things. But when I tell y'all, even coloring has been a struggle. Like doing anything fun. Coloring, crocheting, playing computer games. Like, I have so many things that I'm hopeful that I can just enjoy doing during this break and get back into and start feeling better. But I just can't sit here and say, after 2 weeks I'm going to do this. After 3 weeks I'm going to do that. I just can't. So that is what's going on with me. That was the big news of the week. And we're just going to cross our fingers and hope that the next 6 weeks can get me back where I need to be for a while. So yeah, that's probably all about it. I'll mention I'm on leave probably casually, but this will be the most detail y'all get about it. I do encourage, anyone. This is kind of a scary thing to do, particularly in the current environment, which seems to be people not treating their employees very well as a whole. Like, a lot of people kind of frown upon doing this kind of stuff. But if you have things like FMLA and you have, the ability to take the time, please do. We're all going through a lot right now. It's not just me. I mean, I have my own various things that I'm dealing with. Which one was... It was E42 and Oh, shoot. I don't remember. What is this called? Soft Sun. Was it E21? I've got my stuff out of order. E42 and it was E41. Now where is E41? I think E42 is the one I need, but it is kind of weird. I can't find. Oh, it's right there. Okay. It's not just me. This has been a really tough year. I have a coloring friend, and I'm not going to say who for sure, but if you watch her, one of the people in the coloring community here on YouTube announced the other day that she is dealing with pancreatic cancer, and that it's terminal, but they are trying to do treatments. She's been around a number of years. She's always... I just adore her coloring chats. She is so sweet. It's something very soothing about her voice, and like, I don't watch swatching videos much, but I will watch her videos because they're just very relaxing. And she's been, I consider a good friend over the years, so I am very sad for her and just distraught, and I really hope that this treatment, maybe these treatments will go above and beyond their expectations. You can always hope, right? So I hate that for her. There's another colorist on here who's been dealing with another surprise cancer situation. She was gone for a few months and came back and was like, oh yeah, it turns out I had cancer. And she is recovering from surgery from that. And so I worry about her as well. She's a little bit younger, very unexpected. Um, and I know she's trying to get back in the swing of things and recover from all that. It was a pretty major surgery. And then another coloring friend, won't mention his name, but is also dealing with some heart issues. And I've been really worried about him. He knows who he is. He knows who he's probably watching this right now. Um, he knows I worry about him, and he's not in the most ideal living situation right now either, but like he's on the other side of the country, and it's like I can offer funny videos and a virtual shoulder to lean on to talk, but like there's nothing like physically I can do, and I hate that for him. I'm really hoping he can find a doctor who is willing to look closer at his case and help him a little more, but like it is just, and we're not even talk about, right now I feel like we're just, things have been a colossal dumpster fire in the U.S. I try not to get into politics on here, but like right now I am pretty much mad at everybody politically. Like, we are arguing over dress codes in our government, our federal government, while people are having to pay, I don't know, $10 for a carton of eggs in some places, and a lot of people's rents are doubling and tripling, and housing is becoming unaffordable for so many people in the US right now. And like, we just have so many different crises happening, and like they're just being ignored by the people that shouldn't be ignoring them because they're in their own petty squabbles. And I'm talking about both sides. I'm not saying this is a both sides situation, but like I'd say one side has definitely caused more problems than the other. But I'm not happy with the I don't I don't know. I'm pretty mad at everybody right now, except for a few select politicians I follow that seem to get it, but like they are a tiny voice in a large room. And just, I feel like they're all doing things just to keep kicking the can down the road enough so that the wealthy can collect as much money as they can and build their bunkers and buy their private islands so they can go sail off when the shit hits the fan and work us all half to death, make us all sick, and then leave us to our own devices while they go off to some small island somewhere and live out like the fall of human civilization, and climate change and all that. So like it's just been a dumpster fire. I think it's been a dumpster fire. It was becoming a dumpster fire before COVID. I think COVID brought a lot of things to light and there was a lot of potential for change. Then everybody decided they wanted to get back to normal, which normal was a dumpster fire even before COVID. And so we're all trying to get back to a norm that is not a good norm anyway. And so we can't because COVID's still a thing. I'm sorry if you disagree. Go to your own channel and talk about that, I guess. Anyway, yeah, we won't even talk about, like, there's a lot of things that my poor therapist just can't even, like, there's nothing she can do about, right? Like, we can talk about my own trauma. We can talk about my own inability to trust people and prefer my cats over people. Hang on, 33 and 34. We can talk about that all day long. Like, my own issues with, like, trusting people and trusting cats and so, loving animals more than people and things like that. Like, we can talk about that kind of stuff all day long. We can talk about my own trauma and insecurities, about people believing I'm sick, and that, my husband isn't going to just throw his hands up one day and say, I can't deal with this anymore, I'm out. Kind of like my second husband did. Um, so, like, that's stuff we can work on. But, like, the the dumpster fire that is society and existence right now, like, there's really just not a lot she can do to help counter that. And there's only so many TikTok videos you can laugh at before, like, it's a stopgap, right? It's a way for me to disconnect for just a few minutes from watching the world burn. And it just, so yeah, like, everything's slowly, that's why I'm saying it's been an awful year for everybody. Like, we're all just, is that also 28? Dang it. Um, Everybody's going through it. And I would say to that, wow, this went a lot longer than I thought it would. Maybe we don't do any trivia in this one. I would say to that, let's try to be kind. And I'm not talking about those people that, like, pop off rude and screaming and cussing, um, like, and acting a fool. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm just talking about, like, these people that are working at, like, Sonic, and they're understaffed all the time, constantly, because nobody can afford to live and on the salary that they offer, and so they can't find consistent help, and so they're constantly understaffed and overworked. Like, if Sonic screws up your order, like, don't go nuclear on them. Like, just show a little bit of kindness and grace, I guess, if you can, because I just feel like we're all going through it in different ways, and, like, I can't believe how mean people are getting anymore. And I think that's it, is, like, all this anger towards so much going wrong. Like, nobody knows what to do with it. And so it gets put out in these, viral videos, these people, like, unloading on fast food workers and throwing things at them, and, like, just, I think it's just people that just don't know how to handle their anger. And I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying I think that's one of the reasons we're increasingly seeing that. It's just, it's increasing. This is why you don't need to bottle up anger, because it will come out at the worst time possible. Trust and believe, I know this. But, like, I feel like I've had instances where, they've been late with, like, fast food places been late with an order, or something was wrong, or it took a while for them to get to me, and they just act like it's like PTSD. Like, they act like I'm just gonna go off on them, and I feel so bad. Like, they're just trying to make it in this world and do the best they can do with what they have, and the last thing they need is somebody popping off on them because they're out of like, their favorite Starbucks drink or something. Like, it's just, but it's insane how more and more that kind of stuff is happening. And it just, like I said, yeah, I feel like it's a huge sign of this underlying anger at these issues, and the inability of people to feel like they can do anything but just keep on going. stuff that anger down and then they lose it on somebody over something minor. Like, you should never do that. But, like, I'm just saying, try to be a little kinder to people if you can. It just, anyway. So, yeah. Maybe we can do a little bit of Golden Girls trivia here at the end. Which it actually works out because I'm going to be doing less coloring while we do the Golden Girls trivia. So we'll just do a little bit. I have plenty for a number of episodes. We had the intro, so that's, probably one of the reasons this was so long. Boy, I really gave y'all a lot of back-to-back color and chat stuff the past couple weekends. Yeah, the reason I'm not doing my completed pages this weekend is I'm not done with them. There were a couple pages that I need to do in Baby Dragons to finish out the book that Tammy and I said we were going to do this month, and I haven't done them yet. Also, I am not 100% sure I want to do a completed pages this month, or if I just want to wait and do it in October. Combined. We're going to see. Like, I'm giving myself till next weekend to decide, and then, because I just don't feel like I have quite a few color by number pages, but I just don't have a lot else. So, I might just wait. Also, which one was copper? I think this one was supposed to be copper, whatever that color is. This is not really a copper. But, alright. So we only got a little bit left to color. That's pretty cool. I've had a lot of fun with this page. Alright. So, some Golden Girls trivia, I think, to round out this long ass video. So throughout the Golden Girls 1985-1992 run, they racked up 68 Emmy nominations and 11 wins. The series was ranked number 69, nice, on the Writers Guild of America's list of 100 best written TV series of all time. I feel like that is too low on that list. Okay, is that a 16 or 18? I think that's an 18, so that would be the orange. I grabbed an orange. Where did it go? Did I put it back? I put it back in here. Did I? There it is. So, I mentioned Sophia, played by Estelle Getty, who plays Dorothy's mother. She wasn't even supposed to be a regular on the show. They originally planned to have, and you see him in the very first episode, they planned to have a chef named Coco, and he was in the very first episode, and she was just supposed to be like in a few episodes. She wasn't supposed to be a regular, but apparently the focus groups loved Sophia so much and her character that at the last minute they basically rewrote the show to write her in, and they got rid of poor Coco. So, but you can still see him, I think, a little bit in the first episode. So, but yeah, her character was so popular that they ended up making it so that she moves in, and then she just becomes such a part of the show. I really feel like it was the magic between those four. I don't know if I've ever watched Golden Palace, which was a spinoff of Golden Girls. When B. Arthur decided she was leaving, the other three wanted to try to continue it on in Golden Palace, and it lasted one season. I think it was just something magical about those four particular characters and those actresses, like, combined with the writing that just made the show so darn special. So I kind of get that, right? Like, that makes sense. But yeah, I think, I don't even know if the show would have been what it was. Like, just think of the show without one of the characters, right? Like Sophia or Dorothy or Rose or Blanche. It's just hard, right? Like, it's hard to even think about that because it just wouldn't be what it is. They all just, like I said, I think it was magic when they worked together. Speaking of Estelle Getty, she actually, she plays Dorothy's mother, but in real life, Estelle Getty was a year younger than Dorothy. She was 62 when B. Arthur was, or B. Arthur, I guess, younger than B. Arthur. She was 62 and B. Arthur was 63. So they had to do some makeup magic to make her look older. And she would spend 3 hours in that makeup chair to look like, to be aged enough to pass for an 80-year-old woman. So she was playing somebody 20 years older than her. And apparently she got a facelift after that first season too, and they were like mad at her because it was already intensive enough to make her up, but then they had to do even more to make her look older, which I just think so funny. That she was just like, I don't care, I'm gonna go to a facelift. Like, yes, go off, queen. Just, I mean, I feel bad for the makeup artist, but like, don't let that slow you down. Um, in terms of ages, by the way, so Getty was 62. Um, B. Arthur and Betty White were both 63, which I'm honestly shocked they were that old. I thought they were more in their 50s. But Rue McClanahan was 51. So I was shocked there was such an age difference between them all. Or between those three and Rue McClanahan. I mean, it makes sense, when you go back and watch the show, but like, I really had no idea. So, man, I tell y'all, if I ever had an opportunity to buy Sophie, one of the iconic pieces from the show is, of course, Sophia's little purse that she carries around all the time because she has what's it called? People have heart problems carry something. Nitroglycerin. That's it. Sounds wild. They carry it with them just in case if they have a heart attack or something, like it's supposed to help. Kind of like taking aspirin or something. So a lot of people with ongoing heart issues carry nitroglycerin with them in case of an attack or something, if they've already had like one or had a stroke or something like that. And, oh shoot, now we're going 3, 2, 1. 3 is dark green. We have dark green, green. Sorry, I didn't pull these markers. I didn't think I needed them. Dark green, pine tree green, G29. So she carried her purse everywhere with her. Like you saw, like she got up in the middle of the night and went in the kitchen, she'd have her purse with her. It's that little be beaded kind of purse. Apparently she found that shopping for props before her audition. So she actually carried that. I don't know if she actually carried it into the audition, but like she already had the purse. Like they already had it. Man, if I could pick any prop, it would be that purse. But man, there is no telling where that purse is at, how much that purse would go for. And apparently Estelle Getty wasn't quite as experienced as the other ladies. And so and I don't know if this was the case all through the seasons or just at the start, she had a real serious problem with stage fright. But again, what a awesome woman that she wanted to play this role so bad that she was willing to get, work on that and work past that. So like, that's pretty awesome. They said she would freeze up. She basically had to like talk herself up for every episode. And I don't know how long that lasted, but so just a green. We'll go with G9. Maybe if I can find it. And so I thought that was interesting. They ate over 100 cheesecakes. So one of the things they love to do is sit there and talk over cheesecake and other various desserts. But cheesecake, of course, was the iconic thing. They ate over 100 cheesecakes. And I guess actually ate the cheesecakes. And I guess probably an ongoing joke was that B. Arthur absolutely hated cheesecake. So, that poor woman, like, I don't know, like, maybe she just, no, I mean, we see them eat it, so I gotta say, again, to be willing to endure stuff like that for your craft is, because let me tell you, it'd be like somebody be like, hey, we eat cottage cheese in all these episodes. You're going to have to eat cottage cheese every episode. I don't know if I could sign up for that. I just don't know, because that don't sound, I don't know if I could do that. I would physically want to probably throw up after trying that about 3 or 4 times. So I gotta say, I admire her for that. One of the things I talk about I love, and this is nothing I love about Blanche, is her wardrobe, y'all. That those long satin and silk kind of robes and gowns. My mom used to have satin gowns like that when I was a kid, and like I loved stealing them from my mom's dresser and like wearing them like dress, like dressing up. That because those like and I, clomp around in heels and you just feel so extra twirling around in a little satin gown, or not a little satin gown, but like the floor length satin gowns. You feel like such a little princess, like very much. I was a bit more of a tomboy growing up, but man, I loved those gowns. But those silk robes and stuff, apparently Rue McClanahan agreed with me. She loved Blanche's wardrobe so much that she actually had it written in her contract that she could take it home with her. She took, I don't know if she took all of it, but she took most of it home with her and actually had a special closet made just for those clothes. I don't know what happened when she passed away. Like, did they, sorry, I'm trying to go back to the full screen. Like, did they, they auctioned them off. Like, what happened? Maybe her family's kept them, but like, man, I've looked those up a few times. Maybe I treat myself over my leave to a satin gown and a silk robe, and that's just all I lay around in. I love that idea, actually. I'm gonna look into that. But last time I checked, those things were expensive. Like way more expensive, I think, than they even would have been back in her time. So maybe just one, maybe just one set. But I did. I loved her wardrobe, and especially those gowns. Those were just, and those robes, they were just, oh, just amazing. That would be another thing, either the purse or one of those. And of course, I'd never wear it, but like I would like put that thing in a shadow box or something. That would be awesome. So the last thing I'm going to mention two more things. B. Arthur was a U.S. Marine. So a lot of they call them the girls, but a lot of the girls, of course, were well known for shows before Golden Girls. Hang on just a second. Drank a Coke and immediately had to burp. Um, Rue McClanahan and Betty White had worked together on Mama's Family, which is another beloved show, like in my top five that I love. Um, and I love that they're in that. B. Arthur and had also worked with McClanahan. Was it in Maud or was it in something else? I can't remember, but so B. Arthur was in Maud, which weirdly enough I've never seen, but it was considered a very liberal show of its time. So maybe that's something I can add to my list while I'm out. I have a list of things, y'all. Like I have movies I want to watch. Like I want to watch Sister Act again, Hairspray again. Christopher, my friend, Christopher Michaels, by the way, go check his channel out. He took a bit of a break, but he's been posting again. So I just wanted to call his channel out, just because he's been posting again recently. Mentioned Madeline Kahn in one of his flip throughs the other day, and it totally got me thinking about like her roles in the Mel Brooks movies. So I've got Mel Brooks movies on my list. And I don't know if I'll watch the Golden Girls because I just went through them like a couple months ago, but I might. I might just pick and choose some episodes. But Maud might be something I add to my list while I'm
while I have the time. But anyway, prior to Maud, B. Arthur was in the Marines. She had volunteered for the United States Marine Corps as one of the first members of the Women's Reserve before World War II. She worked for the military as both a typist and a truck driver. She was honorably discharged at the rank of Staff Sergeant in September 1945. So I think that's super cool. And it's fun because she's in this picture. Um, she seems like that kind of lady, just very tough, very, that's why I was saying all of them seem like very strong women in real life. And so I think that adds to the charm of who they were in the show. Last thing I'm going to mention, so Queen Elizabeth's mother, who is referred to as the Queen Mother, apparently was a huge Golden Girls fan. And they asked the cast to go to London for a live performance of Golden Girls script. They were going to perform for the British royal family at the invitation of the Queen Mother. Betty White had said in an interview, she said the Queen was lovely. We were told not to address her unless we were addressed. She was up in a box and she came down on stage after with Princess Anne. She said, lovely, pretty girls. And I said, not bad bodies. And she said, oh no, not bad bodies. Which, if you know anything about Betty White in real life, that is a very Betty White thing to say. When I say like she is like the polar opposite of Rose Nyland in real life, other than her love for animals, like I believe it. I believe she would have been the one to say that to the Queen Mother. Like I really do. So I just thought that was pretty fun. So and we talked about the chef. Plus, Sophia's character was known for being a great cook, so they didn't really need the role of the chef on the show once they realized Sophia was going to be a regular. So, I'm going to stop there. I've got tons to go through because we are done with this picture, and we're just about at the 2 hour mark. Very cool. Like I said, I love this. Where they go in here acting, dressed as male golfers, and like all the guys in here just are completely ignoring them, so they must be doing a pretty good job. But it's a very, very funny episode where poor Rose was just convinced Bob Hope was her dad. And they tried to go along with it, but then they were also just like, Rose, you've got to accept he is not going to be our MC. And she kept right up to the last moment, was just convinced he was going to show up. And right about the time she was like, okay, maybe he's not. And maybe he's not my dad, but, it's a really cool thing to wish for. And it just, you talked about just how vulnerable she was about it. And it was just so funny because then he shows up right at the end, of course. And I can't remember how. Maybe he just saw her letter and decided to show up. I can't remember the reason for it. But anyway, so love the picture, love the episode, love the series, as you can tell. Won't have as much intro on my future episodes. I'll always call back to this one. But yeah, we're definitely going to have more trivia in the future. Then once we get through a lot of the trivia and a lot of the show itself, I'm going to start talking about each of the individual actresses on the show as well. They had a lot of celebrities. And it's always fun to go back because sometimes you find somebody and you're like, I had no idea he was on here. I didn't remember him. Like George Clooney was there. Mario Lopez was on there. And all kinds of, like Sonny from Sonny and Cher was on there. Sonny Bono. And some other actors at the time that, like, I don't even know because they were before my time. But anyway. So I hope those of you that are Golden Girls fans enjoyed all the talk about the show. Hopefully a lot of you have similar memories of it, like nostalgia and things like that. And like I said, I might do one of these a month or something. And then, yeah, so I am kind of on a 6-week vacation, mental health vacation, if you will. But no plans because that's the whole goal of this is a chance for me to recharge just from the last year, from a lot of things that have happened probably in the last 10 years that I just haven't had the time to really recover from. So, yeah, there we are, and some Golden Girls trivia for you. I'm going to try to do the showcase for Watercolor Summer tomorrow. If I don't feel up to it, I will do that next weekend. So, just to let you guys know. I'll do it with like my completed pages. Actually, I may, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. Again, we're trying to be real flexible here. Monday and Wednesday, I hope to have the marker demo and the marker tips and tricks videos up because they're already recorded. I just need to add in a few things. And yeah, I might have 1 or 2 books to flip through in the next week, and then we'll go from there and maybe do completed pages next weekend. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you're having a good weekend, and bye for now.